In 1953, American and British intelligence began planning one of the most ambitious spy operations of the Cold War. They were going to dig a tunnel, hundreds of feet long, under the streets of Berlin, straight into Soviet territory to tap directly into the enemy's most secret communications. It would cost tens of millions of dollars. It would take over a year to build, and on paper, it worked perfectly. But there was a problem. From the very first planning meeting, one of the men in the room was already working for the other side. Before we uncover how this massive operation was compromised from day one, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We bring you the darkest, most buried secrets of history every week, and your support is what keeps these investigations alive. Now, let's look at the battlefield. 105 to 235. Background. By the early 1950s, Berlin was the most dangerous city on Earth. Divided between East and West, it was the front line of a war that never officially started. A war fought entirely in secret. The CIA and Britain's MI6 had a problem. They had no reliable way to know what the Soviet military was really planning. Radio signals could be intercepted from a distance, but the Soviets had switched to underground telephone lines that ran directly beneath East Berlin, completely out of reach. Or so they thought. American intelligence discovered something extraordinary, a critical junction where Soviet communication cables converged, buried just a few feet underground, dangerously close to the American sector. The plan was audacious. Dig a tunnel from the American side, break through undetected, and tap the cables from below, intercepting every phone call, every telegram, every military order passing through Soviet headquarters in Berlin. It was codenamed Operation Gold by the Americans. The British called it Operation Stopwatch. Planning meetings were held in London, bringing together the top minds of both agencies. Construction began in 1954. Engineers removed thousands of tons of soil in complete secrecy, reinforcing the tunnel with steel plating to prevent collapse. It ran nearly 1,500 feet, longer than 4 football fields, deep enough to pass undetected beneath the border. In May 1955, the tap went live. For months, American and British analysts listened in on Soviet military traffic, gathering what seemed like an intelligence goldmine. But one man at those early planning meetings had already made his choice. His name was George Blake, a respected British intelligence officer, trusted enough to sit in on the most classified discussions, and trusted enough to write the official meeting notes. What his colleagues didn't know was that Blake had secretly become a Soviet agent years earlier. Before the first shovel ever touched the ground in Berlin, Blake had already handed the Soviets the tunnel's location, its purpose, and its technical details. The operation was compromised before construction even began. Here is where the story takes its strangest turn. Faced with the knowledge that Western intelligence was about to tap their most sensitive communications, the Soviets made a calculated decision. They let it happen anyway. Exposing the tunnel immediately would have exposed Blake, and Blake was far too valuable to lose. So the KGB chose to sacrifice a year of compromised communications rather than risk their mole. For nearly a year, the tunnel kept running. American and British analysts believed they were gathering priceless intelligence, unaware the very existence of their operation was already known at the highest levels in Moscow. In April 1956, Soviet engineers staged what looked like an accidental discovery, supposedly repairing a faulty cable, and found the tunnel in front of international press cameras. It was presented to the world as a triumph of Soviet vigilance. Instead, the story backfired. Newspapers around the world marveled not at Soviet security, but at the sheer audacity and engineering skill of the tunnel itself. For years, no one suspected the truth. Blake continued his career, trusted and respected, moving between postings across the Middle East. It wasn't until 1961, 5 years after the tunnel's discovery, that a Soviet defector exposed him. Blake was recalled to London under false pretenses and arrested the moment he arrived. At his trial, he confessed to betraying hundreds of Western agents over the course of his career. He was sentenced to 42 years in prison, one of the longest sentences in British legal history. But the story doesn't end there. In 1966, Blake escaped from a maximum security British prison with the help of fellow inmates and anti-nuclear activists, smuggled out using a rope ladder and a hidden radio. He fled to Moscow, where he was welcomed as a hero of the Soviet Union, and lived there for the rest of his life. Operation Gold cost the equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars today. It was betrayed before the first drop of sweat hit the ground, yet historians still call it a masterpiece of engineering. A chilling reminder that in the world of shadows, the person sitting right next to you might be writing the script for your destruction. Which leaves us with one final uncomfortable question. If a multi-million-dollar tunnel can be watched from the inside from day one, how many top-secret operations today are being controlled by a ghost no one suspects? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did the Soviets really win this game, or did America outsmart them in the end? Don't forget to like this video, and I will see you in the next Shadow File.